Hi everybody. It's the 8th of May 2018. Now I have discussed some of the issues that I'm about to talk about in the past, but very specifically in a sense I'd like to address this to various friends. I got friends who are atheists and I got friends who are Christians. And I guess there are some friends that would have to be described as fundamentalist Christians, and I'd like to discuss their problems with that. I'd like to discuss problems with people who can't accept the possibility or the reality, let's say, of God. From a logical viewpoint, let's put it that way. Now, you can believe in anything you like. You know, fairies at the bottom of the garden, that's nice, and goblins and what have you, but where's the evidence? So we need to have a lot stronger evidence on issues like that, and I'm not even going to be bothered to talk about it now. Just giving you a point. Now, I suppose I had a discussion quite some weeks back now with a couple of friends, Paul Murphy and Brett Groves. Actually, we talked about a variety of things, and in a sense I expanded on this, that what I accept God, and I accept aliens. I accept that the universe is filled with life, but then you've got to say how. Now, they couldn't all evolve from nothing without a plan, is my thought on that. So things are too perfect for it to have evolved with it from nothing, and it's the argument's gone on quite a bit about that. But I described it as this way: if you had a big whiteboard and you draw a line down the centre, on one side, the left-hand side of the whiteboard, you've got people who believe in the Big Bang and evolution and will never accept God, no matter what argument you put up, whatever evidence or logic you put up on the subject. They just won't accept it. It's a case I've made my mind up. I'm never going to change my mind. I'm set on this. They're wrong in that regard. And you've got Michio Kaku, who is a Japanese-American physicist and very well known and followed throughout the world online and so on, like on YouTube and so on. And my son Alfie regards him as somewhat of a guru or whatever. So that's fine. I've even had a look at his talks online, and one of the things that surprised people, and doesn't surprise me really, is that he thinks that, and proves, in other words, that God exists through mathematics. He said everything is too perfect for it to be an accident, and he says it can be demonstrated to be the case. Now, he said, Einstein believed in God, he said, but not in the God of personal God, as he said, such as we Christians accept as, in other words, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jesus, and the personal God who we would pray to, and he would communicate with us. Well, I could talk on for a lot about that subject, because I know I've had some experiences in that area, and I know it to be correct. I've even had a near-death experience, and I know that I've expanded on that in the past, and I'd be happy to talk about that to anyone who asks me. And I've had a number of other experiences over the years that would illustrate that something's going on there. But I mentioned to those both gentlemen 3 videos, and I'm still waiting for their reply on the subject. I said there's 3. Michio Kaku, who accepts God but will not accept the personal God that Paul Murphy and myself would accept. So I said, Brett, you can prove it mathematically. Now, all right. Now, the second one is Paul Murphy wouldn't accept that the world, the universe is filled with intelligent life, and I happen to believe it is. Now, I said, look, have a look at Stanton Friedman, and specifically a video documentary called Slaying the Dragon, which talks about the Roswell UFO crash, which was an alien crash, and they got bodies from it and so forth, and there's plenty of research. In fact, he's done research for over 50 years to prove that is completely true. Then we turn to a couple of things. One is that if 1% of at least a trillion, we could talk many more than that, but say there's a trillion stars only in our galaxy, the Milky Way. If 1%, and I'd like someone to correct me if I'm wrong on this figure, that'd mean 100 million planets that have 100 million stars, I should say, that have planets around them that would be capable of supporting life. Then if you had 1% of those that had intelligent life on them, that'd equal 1 million planets in our galaxy alone that have life on them. Now, how did all that happen? Did it all happen by accident? I'd say not. I'd say that God created evolution and spread it throughout the universe. And it becomes more and more logical the more you consider it and research the whole thing, that the mere fact that aliens, of course, come in a variety of species and styles, let's say, everything from the well-known little greys, the ones with the big almond eyes, right through to the tall whites, and some that look what we call the Nordics, which look like human beings, tall, fairly tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, and so forth, pale skins, and lots of other species, and some that would look like human beings. Well, you say, well, how would that be? Well, I'd say it's designed by God, and it's spread throughout the universe, and they interact with each other, of course, because they reach a certain stage where they can overcome space travel and the speed of light, and all that is just nonsense, that it's restricting the speed of people getting around the galaxy. But let's not even consider the next galaxy over. Let's consider our own current galaxy, and let's move that, as Dr. Stanton would in his talks, let's move it down to our space neighbourhood. In other words, within, say, 10 light years distance, there'd be a number of stars and a number of planets around them that are perfect for having intelligent life on them. Now, and then you talk about visitation for thousands of years of intelligent beings. I don't want to go so much into that right now, but I just want to say that it exists. And I'd say, so now we get on to fundamentalist Christians who believe that the universe is 6,000 years old, and I'd say that they are completely wrong, and that it's a parable in the Bible, in Genesis, and people think, oh gee, God created earth and mankind, he didn't create anything else, this is it, and he interacts with mankind, and that's as far as we go. Our other friends, and I regard them as friends, are people like Tim Spark, is a top bloke at our church, he's pastor. I said, surely you don't accept the empty universe thesis, do you? He said, yes, I do. Although it's kind of sad, because I believe that the universe is filled with light. Now, it's a friendly conversation, we sort of leave it at that, but I'd like him, in a sense, to hear me out, which we haven't got time to do for a church. We're out there having a cup of tea or something. You can't exactly talk to anyone for more than 2 or 3 minutes. And the same thing I'd say actually to people such as Paul Murphy and to Brett Groves, and I'd say to my other friend John Edwards, who I think would almost surely fall into the fundamentalist Christian grouping. It's a large grouping, who would think that the universe is only 6,000 years old. And I could demonstrate, as many people could, I'm not being a smart aleck by saying this, that is completely wrong for a number of reasons. One is the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles a second, and the distance to the centre of our galaxy alone, forgetting about the rest of the universe for a moment, is 150,000 light years. So light took 150,000 years to travel to the Earth, and where in this region and beyond, let's say. So that's how long it's there for billions of years, people would say, but that's an absolute minimum. We're talking minimum here. So we know that the universe is much older than the 6,000 years. Then we know that the universe is filled with life, and that probably we've had intelligent beings not only visit this planet, but perhaps have bases here and have had a lot of interaction with governments and people and so on. And we know about alien abductions and all that. I don't want to expand for very, very long, otherwise you could talk for hours on the subject, but I did want to discuss just the 3 videos that if anyone's interested in considering the subjects I'm talking about, best to view, in other words. I mentioned that Michio Kaku and God. It's only a few minutes worth of that one. Another one is Stanton Friedman, and if you just type those names in at YouTube, if you type in Slaying the Dragon, you come up with that video documentary, let's say, on the Roswell incident and some other related issues that will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that has occurred. Now, then the third one, for those who are in great doubt, or atheists, perhaps agnostic as I was when I was a kid, about God, no, can't accept that, no, everything's all accidental, and it's and so on. Look up Lee Strobel and the Case for Christ. Now, I actually had the book. I loaned it to Brett, and actually I loaned it to Mark Simpson. I know they didn't read it, because if they had read the book, they would have changed their views on the subject and be quite convinced that it's true. Now, there is a major conflict here, and some of my Christian friends would recognise this straight away, and they'd say, "Oh, you're supposed to be a Christian," and I am. So, well, I am, yes. Read the book Christians and Evolution, and I've loaned that to Paul Murphy, and he says it's on his reading list. It must be a long reading list. I hope the reading list doesn't last to the end of this year, and he can finally read it. And I hope he doesn't fast forward, so to speak, and skip through it and read a bit here and a bit there and a bit there. I also read that book. Well, you can't do that if you're going to have a understanding of what the book is about. And it goes to people who are all Christians, by the way. 18 authors, in other words, they had 18 chapters, and the editor is, I guess, a Christian, is a professor, and their arguments, or their discoveries, let's say, on the subject of evolution is, it certainly existed, and all of those people remain Christians, as I do. After reading the book, I'm still a Christian. I still accept God. I still accept Jesus as my Lord and Saviour. And some people right away say, "Oh, that's a conflict. You just can't accept evolution, and then accept aliens throughout the galaxy and throughout the universe, and then also accept God and accept Christ as your Lord and Saviour." I say to all of you, you are wrong in an aspect of your faith or your belief. You are wrong in some of these things, and it doesn't destroy the faith as a Christian. Far from it. I accept, as I said, I'm going to go over it 4 or 5 times, I accept that. But I also accept aliens throughout the universe, and I accept evolution has occurred, and I was shocked. I was just shocked to have become a Christian 25 years ago or so. And I thought, well, I'll leave all of this aside, these mysteries of the Bible, and I don't know, and all what they have to say, I'll leave it aside and just accept that. But I read the book, and you can buy a copy from the Coorong bookshop in wherever you are living. I guess if you're talking in Australia, it'd be here in Brisbane, or other cities would have a Christian bookshop. It's called Christians and Evolution. It is a book well worth reading, and it will change your view on life, let's say. Just as I'm saying to Brett and others, if you watch the video, The Case for Christ, that will change your viewpoint on the subject. So I just thought I would bring all that together, as it were, and ask you to consider everything that I've had to say about the subject now, and get back to me. In other words, write in the YouTube on the comments section. I'll make another video, just sort of an introduction to that, on my Flickr, and probably and I'll probably put this video onto Facebook as well, I'm hoping. So I hope those who have viewed it have got some benefit and from hearing what my viewpoint is on this, and I'd like to hear from you at some point in the future. So thank you for viewing.